Now, Props and Locks on Fox 32 Chicago, presented by Bet Rivers Sportsbook.
Good Sunday morning and welcome to Props and Locks. I'm Caitlin Sharkey. Each week we sort through the best bets and odds of the biggest games of the week, courtesy of Bet Rivers Sportsbook. Joining me every Sunday morning, VSiN expert Danny Burke. And Danny, like always, let's kick things off with the Bears and Falcons game, a game you can see right here at noon on Fox 32. Bears coming in with a 2-0 record, but a 3-point underdog to the 0-2 Atlanta Falcons. Over under at 47. Danny, first, let's talk about this point spread. Atlanta winless to start the season, but putting up some big offensive numbers. Matt Ryan with 4 touchdowns and 273 yards last week. Do we like the spread here at 3?
You know, Caitlin, you talk about the spread at 3. Before we got on air, this actually dropped down to 2.5. So some late action actually going towards Chicago. However, you're seeing 60% of the bets at Bet Rivers on the Falcons. Despite that, the number has dropped to the Bears now catching just 2.5. So this is a game where I actually laid the 3 earlier in the week with Atlanta. My biggest concern is how are the Bears going to keep up offensively with the Falcons? 32 points per game so far is what Atlanta is averaging. The Bears just 22 as of this point. They're only able to put up 17 against the New York Giants. So, look, I think this is going to be a tough spot for Chicago. Kind of surprised with the late buyback on the Bears now that we said, like we saw it now at 2.5. But here's a trend to look out for. Teams that have started 0-2 straight up since 2014, Caitlin, they're 28-11 against the spread. So that falls directly into the hands of Atlanta. So 72% rate for Atlanta. Now that it's at 2.5, give me more with Atlanta. I'm laying the 2.5. I don't think Trubisky and the offense can keep up with Matty Ice in Atlanta. I know they're an ugly team to back right now, but I think it's a great spot for the Falcons. They'll get the win in the cover today against Chicago.
Absolutely. When you're looking at the over-under for this one, you were talking about the Bears maybe having some issues scoring and getting those point totals up. Over-under at 47. Is that something you shy away from when you're looking at a matchup like this, Danny?
You know, it's tricky because we know how good this Bears defense is, and today it's going to be kind of a bend, don't break mentality. The Bears defense is going to be solid, but only for so long I think they're going to be able to contain this Falcons offense. So it opened up at Bet Rivers at about 48. It's dropped down to 47. Personally, with the total, I'm going to stay away from it, but I would shade a little bit to the under because I think the Bears defense will have a solid performance, as they typically do. But on the side of the Bears offense, which is my concern, as I've been noting, I don't think they'll be able to produce enough points. So I would shade a little bit to the under, but my best bet for this one is still just laying the 2.5 with Atlanta. That total's just a little bit too dicey for me to want to dabble with.
Absolutely. Well, game 2, another tough point spread. The Packers on the road taking on Drew Brees and the Saints. Saints laying 3.5, over-under at 53. Aaron Rodgers red hot to start the season, passer rating of 107 last week. Do we like the Packers with the points here, Danny?
Well, this has been tricky because all of the money is going toward Green Bay in this spot, and rightfully so. I mean, they're the best offense in the NFL thus far, but this is your classic case of recency bias, right? I mean, Drew Brees, his arm strength, we've seen that be declining for the past few seasons. Last week against the Raiders in their debut in Las Vegas didn't look too great. This one opened up with the Saints laying 6.5. Now, like you alluded to, Caitlin, Green Bay is catching 3.5, so all the attention going toward the Packers. Davante Adams looks like he's a game-time decision. We know that Michael Thomas is out. So if Davante Adams is out, that's another weapon that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have. But they've been able to make up for it despite not really producing or picking up anybody in the draft, rather. And like we said, they have the best offense. Aaron Jones has been an absolute threat so far this season. My best bet for this one is to tease up the Packers, actually. I don't like anything straight up in this one necessarily. I think the best bet is to tease up the Packers. So what I did earlier when they were at 3, and obviously you can still do it at 3.5, you tease it up with either a 6, a 6.5, or a 7-point teaser. You pay a little bit more. You have to add another team to that leg, and we'll talk about that other team later. But I think you tease up the Packers here where they just have to cover the number about 9, 9.5, and I think that's the best opportunity to take.
All right, good stuff. Next up, Dallas visiting Seattle Seahawks, the 4.5-point favorite. A small change from last night. Russell Wilson on a tear the last few weeks. Thoughts on Seattle covering? I like the Seahawks passing game against Dallas. Dallas has covered 8 of its last 10 as an underdog. What are you thinking here?
Well, so this one opened up in favor of the Seahawks naturally. 3.5 is what they were laying. This number has actually been bumping up and down throughout the day. I saw it at 5, and now it's at 5.5 in favor of Seattle as we're nearing game time. Look, it's hard to go against Russell Wilson as of this point. The Cowboys got lucky with the win last week, and I still think they're a great team with a solid offense, but defensively, you got to imagine the Seahawks are just going to torch them up today. That number's ugly, though, at that 5.5 spot, so I'm going to stay away from this one, Caitlin. I think this is a prime game, however, to look for in-game betting opportunities, which obviously a lot of people sometimes don't take advantage of. A lot of times, that's the best route to go. So if the Seahawks get down early, if it's a low-scoring game early as well, I would look to live bet the total over and live bet the Seahawks, and I think that's the best way to go about this game because pre-flop, before the game starts, not feeling too confident one way or the other.
Absolutely. Well, still more to come on props and locks, more of Burke's bets as we continue a look around the league. And a reminder, you can place your bets at betrivers.com or using the BetRivers mobile app. We're back after this.
Props and Locks on Fox 32, presented by BetRivers Sportsbook.
Place your legal sports bets at BetRivers.com, your new home for sports betting. Millions of betting options a year on the sports you love. We offer live in-game betting on major sporting events worldwide. We have tons of bets available during games, from money lines, point spreads, prop bets, play-by-play bets, and many more. BetRivers.com offers live streaming of events worldwide. That's right, you can bet on the game as you're watching. Sign up now, and we'll match your first deposit up to $250. More bets, more action, more fun. Place your sports bets at BetRivers.com. Place your legal sports bets at BetRivers.com, your new home for soccer betting. The most soccer betting options on the sport you love. We offer live in-game betting on major soccer matches worldwide. We have tons of bets available during game, from money lines, goal spreads, player goals, half bets, and many more. BetRivers.com offers live streaming of games worldwide. That's right, you can bet on the game as you're watching. Sign up now, and we'll match your first deposit up to $250. More bets, more action, more fun. Place your sports bets at BetRivers.com.
We're back with more props and locks, presented by BetRivers Sportsbook.
Welcome back to Props and Locks. I'm Caitlin Sharkey, joined by VSiN expert Danny Burke. And Danny, let's continue with a quick look at some other big games happening around the league today. Arizona Cardinals laying 5.5 at home, hosting the Lions. I don't know about you, Danny, but I like the Cardinals to cover. They're getting some key players back on defense and already allow the second fewest points per game.
Not only do you like that, but so does a majority of the public as of this point. Who wants to back the Lions? They're an ugly team consistently, no matter what season it is, it seems. But once again, the thing that kind of shies me away, Caitlin, like we talked about, that trend since 2014, teams that start out 0-2 straight up, 28-11 ATS. So they're covering the number at a 72% clip. The Lions fall under that category. I'm not saying I'm going there and I'm betting the Lions catching 5.5, but once again, another game where I think it's a good teaser opportunity for the Cardinals. Now, I know when you have these teaser spots, we talk about which are the most profitable. You're teasing up short and home, road or home dogs, so you get through that key number of 7, or home favorites at about 7. The Cardinals are a little bit under that spot, and you don't want to tease through the 0, which would happen with the Cardinals here. I know it's kind of one of the sins with the teaser, but all you need to do is have the Cardinals win today, so that's why I'm still going to decide to use them in a teaser, and I think they get the win. I probably would lean toward them covering as well, not too bullish on the lines as of this point, so I agree with you in that regard, but I think the best spot would be to tease down Arizona.
Okay, well, the undefeated Titans taking on the winless Vikings. Minnesota, the 2.5-point underdog. Over-under at 50. What stands out about this one, Danny?
Well, what stands out is that every time I like to bet the Vikings, they kind of just screw me over, Caitlin. So I think I have to do it again. Third time's the charm, right?
Exactly.
When we talk about that trend, this is perfect for the Vikings, right? I mean, everybody looks to be on the Titans in this spot. You're seeing so much attention toward them. Look, Tannehill's been fine. Don't get me wrong. Derrick Henry is still a stud. But you're giving me 3 with the Vikings at home in this spot. It went from 2.5 to 3. It's been bouncing back and forth. We now see it at 3 in favor of Tennessee. I'm going to test my luck one more time with Minnesota. I'm taking the 3 points with Kirk Cousins. We need some offense out of that team, and that defense needs to return back to its norm that we saw last season. So, unfortunately, I will be taking the 3 with Minnesota.
All right, I like the consistency. Moving on to the Bills and Rams. Bills laying 2. It was 2.5. Do we like the Bills or Rams to cover, or do we go straight money line here?
I'm actually looking at the money line of the dog being Los Angeles in this spot. Pretty impressive performance in their first 2 games thus far in this season, Caitlin, with a team that a lot of people kind of just put to the side. They went all in with their roster this past season, and they're in this win now mode. Yes, they had the Super Bowl hangover last season. It's a tough NFC West. But look at the Bills in this spot, too. Not enough confidence are they oozing out for me to want to back them. Barely getting the win against the Dolphins last week. And even though they played the Jets and got the win, it was only a 10-point win. I get it was week 1. But I think Jared Goff, that offense, has a really good rhythm going right now. I'm not even going to bother with the point spread, taking the 1.5, 2.5, wherever he keeps moving to. But I'm taking the money line for a little bit of plus money at about plus 110 at Bet Rivers. I think the Rams win this one outright.
All right, and finally, the Las Vegas Raiders visiting the Patriots. Danny, are we surprised by the New England Patriots being the 6.5-point favorite here?
Not too surprising, really. Well, you would imagine that it kind of would have went in favor to the Raiders, as we saw at some points this week, just because, like we like to talk about, recency bias and how they beat the Saints. In Vegas, of course, they're going to see a lot of attention on their hometown team. But Cam Newton, despite getting the loss against the Seahawks, it came down right to the end. A lot of people like what they saw, so that's why the attention's going back toward New England, just under a touchdown of that key number. The best angle I'm looking at here, Caitlin, is team totals. So the great thing about Bet Rivers, you can bet so many different props and areas in these games. And I think the best bet is the team total over 26.5 for New England. The Raiders are giving up 27 points per game. Their defense is really suspect from last season to this year. And I think Cam Newton and Bill Belichick, they're not going to lose another game in a row. They're going to step it up offensively. I think the Patriots get at least 27 points in this battle.
All right, Danny, let's look at your bets recap and talk us through some quick teasers before we wrap things up.
So like we talked about with the teasers, this allows you to alter the line either by 6, 6.5, or 7 points. And you have to have at least 2 teams part of this leg. So the one that I'm looking at is a 6.5-point teaser with the Texans against the Steelers. The Texans were catching 4 points, so I tease them up 6.5. So they just need to lose by 10 or less for me to win that side of it. So the Texans plus 10.5, and I pair that with the Browns. We talk about home favorites at about 7. Tease them down 6.5 to where they only have to do is win. So the Texans catching 10.5, the Browns winning straight up. Then also we talked about the Cardinals teasing them down and the Packers teasing them up, catching 9.5. That's my other teaser that I like. And finally, the Falcons, I laid them at 3. Now they're at 2.5. I love that even more. So unfortunately, I'm fading the Bears. I think Atlanta gets the win.
All right, good stuff as always. Thank you, Danny, for joining me. Thank you for joining us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on Props and Locks. Make sure you place those bets at betrivers.com or using the Bet Rivers mobile app. Just a reminder, Fox Kickoff Sunday is next. See you next week.